But for the first hour of our program, I want to get into this whole issue of our economy, how broken it is, and what can we do about it. Do we have jackals picking over the bones of what used to be an actual economy? You see, we don't make things here anymore outside of military hardware. We're the world's largest manufacturer, but that's about the only manufacturing base we have. Look around you. Do you see anything made in the United States? We need to recover our industrial base. Otherwise, we're going to have nothing more than a series of recurring bubbles, because we have an economy based on making money out of money rather than making money by improving the value of things. In other words, making things or creating intellectual properties. Excuse me. So the consequence of this is a series of recurring boom and bust bubbles, and perhaps most importantly, because it's destructive to democracy in the United States, a deterioration, a continuing, ongoing deterioration of the American middle class. Betting on bets, on bets on bets, these are called derivatives, that mortgages won't default is no way to make money. Yet a $2 or $3 trillion, excuse me, a $2 or $3 trillion U.S. mortgage market was turned into over $900 trillion worth of CDOs and collateralized debt obligations and derivatives. $900 trillion of bets, literally nothing more than bets on bets on bets on bets. You start out with the mortgage. Well, okay, we got the mortgage, then we got the insurance on the mortgage. Well, we bet that that's not going to fail. Well, let's bet that bet is going to fail. Okay, well, let's bet that the bet on the bet is going to, and literally that's how it's done. These are the brilliant new products that are being created on Wall Street right now as we speak. Our politicians need to wake up. They need to wake up big time. Now, in the midst of this, we have this problem is the wrong word. Epidemic maybe is the right word. The swine flu. The swine flu is apparently taking down large chunks of America. Now, I mean, this isn't screaming hysteria, but this is an important issue. And there are a lot of people who want to get the swine flu vaccine, which appears to be safe and efficacious. I realize there's a huge debate around that, and I don't want to address that debate in this conversation. Instead, let's just assume for the moment that there is a demand for this, that people want it, and who's getting it. Here, just for example, this Genesee County child's death linked to the swine flu. This Genesee County, I'm assuming there's a Genesee County in New York and there's one in Michigan. I think this is the New York one. Health officials in Genesee County have linked a child's death to the swine flu. Interim Health Director Randolph Garney, he says it's a school-aged child. He's not putting out the name. In neighboring Erie County, this must be New York, tests were being conducted to determine whether an Amherst high school student who died of the virus, 15 years old, died of swine flu H1N1. And on Monday, health officials in Albany and Warren counties reported 2 swine flu deaths. So, it is killing people. Many of them are dying from the secondary infections, but it is killing people. And President Obama, in fact, has declared that the swine flu outbreak is a national emergency. So, and the vaccine is, we have nowhere near enough vaccine. This from today's Wall Street Journal, or actually it's a couple days ago in the Wall Street Journal. Less than half, Betsy McKay, Jennifer Duran, less than half of the swine flu vaccine expected to be shipped to doctors, hospitals, and clinics in the U.S. has been shipped so far. The disease is now widespread in 46 states, and the U.S. death toll has passed 1,000. So why am I setting this up? Well, here's the kicker on this thing. In New York City, they're having a real problem getting enough swine flu vaccines into the hospitals. For example, Lenox Hill Hospital got only 200 doses of the vaccine. Guess who else got 200 doses of the vaccine? Guess who else has an in-house, essentially hospital, a medical clinic for their senior executives and wealthy guys so that they don't even have to leave the building if they want to get a doctor's checkup or they have a medical problem? Goldman Sachs. Another organization that has an in-house medical facility, Citibank, they got 1,000, they got 1,200 doses of the vaccine. Citigroup. Amazing. They note, by the way, in the article here in Business Week, that only 2 of Goldman's New York facilities got the swine flu vaccine because only 2 of them have basically in-house medical facilities. The more remote locations around the country that don't have medical facilities and don't have the multimillionaires working there, they didn't get them. Brilliant. I mean, here we have an economy that should be people work, they make things as a consequence of making things, thus creating value. They get paid, and that payment goes out into the larger economy. But Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and these companies that make nothing, that we allowed to come into existence, banking corporations, you'll recall Thomas Jefferson saying banks are more dangerous than standing armies. These banksters that we've allowed to come into, we create the corporations for them, we grant them all kinds of tax benefits. These banksters are getting the swine flu vaccine before kids in hospitals. I mean, tell me this makes sense. Tell me this is right. This seems to me, it's the lords of the economy. They're getting the vaccine before kids and pregnant women. Oh, well, we've got to protect the rich white guys at Goldman Sachs, There's nobody more important than the rich white guys at Goldman Sachs. I mean, Matt Taibbi has done a brilliant job of laying out how this company in particular, but several others, how they're gaming the system, how they're ripping us off. It's home builder. Well, actually, here's the story in today's Financial Times. The Financial Times, right? Today's Financial Times, the headline, the lead headline in Section 2, Companies and Markets, as you can see if you're watching the screen. Goldman's $100 million a day bonanza. Traders at Goldman Sachs made more than $100 million in profits on 36 of the 65 days in the third quarter, highlighting the trading bonanza sweeping Wall Street as central banks continue to pump billions of dollars into the financial system. They're making money on our money. They're making money on our financial system. They're making money on money that the Fed is willing into being, that eventually is going to be inflation that is going to hurt people with pensions, people on Social Security, people on fixed incomes, people at the low end of the pay scale. We're all going to get whacked by this thing. But Goldman is making money, $100 million a day. Goldman said yesterday that it had recorded only one daily trading loss in the last quarter. Do we have the jackals picking over the bones of what used to be our economy? Yes! What can we do about it? I'll share that with you right after the break. What it is. Okay, here's the screaming headline on the front page of our statewide paper, the Oregonian, here in Portland, owned by a New York company. And the headline says, jobless benefits get a boost. Moving to help the struggling economy. The Senate voted Wednesday. Apparently Tom Coburn finally took his hold off the extension of unemployment benefits. Voted Wednesday to extend unemployment insurance for hard-hit workers while also continuing a popular tax credit for first-time homebuyers and offering a new credit for other buyers. By the way, what they're saying now is you don't have to be a first-time homebuyer to get this credit. Now, if you've owned your home for more than 5 years, is my recollection, you can qualify for it. Plus, they're extending the is a $24 billion bill, by the way. They're extending that, I think it's $8,000. I don't have all the details right here in front of me, but my recollection was an $8,000 credit, as it were, to people who are buying a home, to people who have lived in their house more than 5 years. Why is this important? This is important because these are the things, this plus cash for clunkers, are the things that caused the economy to look good in this past quarter. Now, I just heard in the news at the top of the hour that the Dow is up 153 points. Do you feel richer? The average working person in America is seeing their wages declining. Wages are declining all across this country. Working people's wages, people are having to work harder, they're having to work longer. Productivity is up dramatically. Over the last year it's up significantly, and over the last decade it's up significantly. Why? Because people are now doing 2 and 3 jobs. I know companies that used to have 10, 15 employees, they're down to 6 or 8 employees, they're doing the exact same stuff. You've got people who are working, particularly salaried workers who are now working 8, 10, not just an 8-hour day, they're working 9, 10, 11, 12-hour days. Because that's what's necessary to make things work in this economy. And at the core of it all, are we getting wealthier as a nation? No, we're not. I mean, there's a giant wind farm being built down in Texas by who? The Chinese. We're importing Chinese turbines. There's a big solar energy plant being built here in Oregon. It's not owned by an American company. And you've got James Inhofe. I mean, this was the point that Al Gore was last night in his conversation with Rachel Maddow, although he's made this point many times. Al Gore was making the point that if we don't lead on the new economy, in other words, if we don't get back to manufacturing, we're screwed. Because the countries that do make a commitment to manufacturing, they're going to be making all this stuff. The largest manufacturer of wind turbines in the world right now is in Denmark. It's Vestas. But within 6 months to a year, the largest manufacturer of wind turbines in the world is going to be China. The largest manufacturer of solar panels in the world used to be France. Then it became Australia. Now it's China. We're falling behind in all these areas. Why? Because we don't protect domestic industries. All these other countries are protecting their domestic industries. We are not. And our failure to protect our domestic industries, our failure to have a reasonable and rational trade policy is going to guarantee that no matter how good the Obama administration and the DLC dumbs can make this economy look by basically playing the games that Ronald Reagan taught us all how to play. Drive interest rates very, very low. Have free money coming from the Fed. Have the banks show a big profit. Michael Doolin, who does our video, was just in here. He was looking for B-roll for this segment, and he said, when I type into Google Goldman Sachs, Google kind of fills in the blanks for you of the most frequently searched terms. First one that comes up, Goldman Sachs careers. Everybody wants a job in finance. Finance doesn't make anything. It doesn't make a single thing. It doesn't even make intellectual properties. I mean, you can argue, for example, that my radio show's not making anything, that I'm not manufacturing. But I would submit to you that there is some value that comes out of doing radio or television or writing books or writing newspaper articles or writing, anything like that. We're contributing, we're creating things that become part of the culture that do have some value. How possibly can you argue the value is created by taking a piece of paper and saying this piece of paper now represents a bet that another bet is going to fail on a mortgage that might or might not fail? It's inconceivable. It's impossible. And yet the Obama administration and Democrats, as well as, obviously the Republicans, 100% of the Republican Party has sold out. And I want to get into that in a lot of detail in our second hour. But you can make the case that there are a few Democrats and some independent. I mean, Bernie Sanders gets this. Dennis Kucinich gets this. Russ Feingold gets this. I think. Actually, I don't know his position on trade. Oddly enough, Pat Buchanan gets this. We have to have an industrial policy in the United States. We had an industrial policy from 1793 until Ronald Reagan came into office, and yes, Jimmy Carter was the guy who started taking it apart with his deregulation policies. And if we don't start making things in this country, then then extending unemployment for another 14 weeks and giving people $8,000 to buy a house or $4,000 to buy a car does nothing. And this is the bizarre thing. This is where the teabaggers actually have it right. Up next, it's a crazy world. Did a man really show up for his own funeral?